The frost had been relentless all day. The alien settlement on Korath 9 was silent, except for the whisper of the icy wind that tore across the barren plains. The crystalline towers of the city glinted under the dim light of Korath's twin moons, but no warmth reached within. Inside the research outpost, the survivors huddled together, shivering, faces pale under the harsh artificial lights. The heating systems had failed hours ago. Supplies were dwindling, rescue would take days, and the storm outside left no chance of external aid. Corporale Sandrak, the human soldier assigned to protect the team, moved through the narrow corridors of the station, boots crunching over frost that had crept in through every crack. His exosuit, meant to regulate body temperature in hostile environments, had long since ceased to function properly, yet he pushed forward. He had done worse before. Ethan's eyes scanned the monitors. The settlement's energy grid had collapsed after a meteor strike. The aliens, the Xiphorians, were hardy by their standards, but this was beyond anything they could withstand for long. Their thick skin resisted cold, but not absolute deprivation. Their respiratory systems required warmth to maintain oxygen filtration. If he didn't act, everyone inside would die. Ethan. A trembling voice called from the main chamber. Lieutenant Varin, a Xiphorian engineer with thin blue skin stretched over sharp bones, pointed toward a small cluster of colonists, including children. The central heating is gone. We can't restart it. The backup. It's gone with the meteor impact. Ethan clenched his jaw. He didn't speak their language fluently, but over months of joint operations, he had learned enough to communicate. Words weren't always necessary. The urgency, the fear, the desperation, they were universal. He glanced toward the storage room. There were cryogenic packs, experimental human tech for extreme cold that could generate temporary warmth. But they were designed for one person at a time, and they required human bioenergy to operate at full capacity. If someone activated them, their own body would slowly be drained. It was designed as a last resort survival measure. He made the decision before anyone else could argue. He didn't tell them what he planned. He didn't have time. Ethan stripped down to his thermal undersuit and positioned himself inside the largest cryogenic pack. He activated the system. A soft hum filled the room. Heat began to radiate outward, slowly spreading through the corridors and into the central chamber where the Xiphorians and other humans huddled. Ethan. Varin's voice wavered. The alien's large, reflective eyes glimmered with confusion and fear. It will take your energy. You will. Ethan gave a small, grim smile. Not a choice, he said simply. The pack drew power from him directly, pumping warmth into the settlement. The frost began to recede, the ice on walls melting into shallow puddles. Small sighs of relief echoed through the room. Children's eyes grew wide as they felt heat for the first time in what felt like an eternity. Outside, the storm howled. The wind bent the skeletal towers, shook the weak protective shields, and carried snow that sparkled under the moons. Inside, warmth spread, alive, vibrant, even as Ethan felt it draining from him. His body temperature dropped, but his mind remained sharp. Every inch of him screamed to stop, but he ignored it. Every human instinct screamed to survive, and yet he refused. Survival was secondary. Others came first. That was the human way. Hours passed. Minutes stretched like eons. Ethan's vision blurred. He could feel himself weakening, yet he held the pack steady. The warmth remained steady. The Xiphorians were beginning to move freely, helping each other, checking equipment, tending to the injured. They hadn't realized it yet, but without Ethan, the settlement would have frozen to death. Lieutenant Varin knelt beside the pack, trying to take some control. "We could. Shut it down. You can't last much longer." Ethan's lips barely moved, but his voice was firm. "If I stop, they die. You save who you can. I can handle it." Varin's antennae trembled. He wanted to argue, wanted to fight, but he could feel the sheer resolve in Ethan's stance. The human's energy was failing, yet the determination in his eyes was absolute. There was no negotiation, no compromise. As the night dragged on, a storm warning blared from the central console. A fissure had opened in the northern wall due to ice pressure. If it widened, the cold would rush in and extinguish all warmth. Ethan, barely able to move, crawled toward the fissure, dragging the energy pack with him. Each step was agony. His muscles ached. His vision darkened at the edges. Still, he forced himself forward. He reached the wall. The fissure widened like a jagged maw. With his remaining strength, he jammed the energy pack's external interface into the wall's emergency stabilizers. Sparks flew. Metal groaned. The pack hummed louder, sending a surge of heat into the wall, temporarily expanding and stabilizing it. The freezing wind stopped at the threshold. The settlement was safe. For now, Ethan collapsed against the wall, shivering violently. His suit could no longer regulate anything. His heartbeat slowed. His breath came in shallow, ragged gasps. Varin knelt beside him again, gripping his hand in his own alien way. "Human, you've given everything," he said, voice breaking. Ethan's lips curled in a faint smile. All humans, do what needs to be done," he whispered, almost incomprehensible. The crew moved to surround him. They offered blankets, administered emergency stimulants, but it was clear. Ethan had pushed too far. His body could not sustain the bioenergy drain any longer. Then something unexpected happened. A small group of Zyphorian children approached. They placed their tiny hands on the energy pack. Somehow, instinctively, they knew warmth could be shared. A gentle pulse spread outward. The pack had an unusual design, could absorb external energy if given consent. With their innocence and touch, they gave it what it needed to stabilize Ethan just enough. Ethan opened his eyes slightly, surprised. The human spark of ingenuity combined with alien empathy had created something miraculous. It wasn't enough to fully recover him, but it was enough to buy time until the storm passed and rescue could arrive. The night wore on. Ethan, weak and pale, smiled as the Zyphorians began celebrating quietly. It was Christmas night, and despite the freezing world outside, warmth existed inside the settlement. Not from heaters, not from energy packs, but from unity, sacrifice, and the human capacity to endure when nothing else could. When the first rescue ships finally arrived, the crew staggered outside. The storm had passed, leaving a sky so clear it sparkled with distant stars. Ethan was lifted onto a medbay shuttle. He was alive, battered, and nearly broken. Yet he had achieved what he always believed. No one left behind. Lieutenant Varin, standing in the snow, saluted him. "Human, your species is remarkable. You give up everything. For others, even when it costs you." Ethan smiled faintly, his voice hoarse. "It's what we do," he said. "We don't wait for heroes. We just act." The Zyphorians, the children, the survivors, they would remember this night forever. A night when a human soldier gave up everything, yet left them with warmth, hope, and life. In the aftermath, scientists studied the energy pack and the humans' extraordinary resilience. Reports were filed. Awards were considered. But Ethan didn't care. Recognition was unnecessary. His reward was seeing those around him safe, alive, smiling, their bodies finally warm after hours of deadly cold. The storm of Korath 9 would be a memory, but the legacy of human courage and sacrifice would echo throughout the galaxy. And on that Christmas night, when no warmth remained in the frozen world outside, one human soldier reminded the Zyphorians, anyone who would ever hear the tale that hope, courage, and selflessness could ignite warmth even in the harshest cold. Asterisk.